Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the International Conference of the Modernization of Chinese Medicine and Health Product, ICMCM 2022. This year, the annual ICMCM has proudly invited 17 speakers worldwide to share their insight and findings on the different topics. Without further ado, please give your big hand to welcome our moderators of the keynote session. Professor Lin Zhixiu, Professor and Director, School of Chinese Medicine, Chinese University of Hong Kong, and Professor Feng Yibin, Professor and Director, School of Chinese Medicine, the University of Hong Kong. Thank you. May I now pass the stage to Professor Lin and Professor Feng, please.
Okay. First of all, welcome to the first session, keynote speech. I will introduce the first speaker, Professor Zheng Yongqi. Professor Zheng Yongqi is currently a Henry Brosson Professor of Pharmacology and Medicine, Yale University, USA. Professor Zheng is a world well-known scholar in antiviral drug and anti-cancer drug scientist. And in the past years, Professor Zheng Yongqi have awarded various honors and distinguished professor and honorary professor in the worldwide universities. And Professor Zheng also the chairman for Global Chinese Medicine Alliance. Until now, Professor Zheng have published nearly 500 publications in referred journals. As a world well-known drug discovery scholars, he have developed 4 world-class drugs in antiviral drugs, and currently he is focused on developed a new drug from Chinese medicines. He aims to push Chinese medicine in international arena and promote multiple compounds and multiple targets with high quality and clear mechanism study for Chinese medicine new drug development. Now, welcome to Professor Zheng Yongqi for his keynote speak. As his topic is We Medicine Case Study YIV 906, a new Chinese medicine drug for anti-cancer. As an example, welcome to Professor Zheng Yongqi.
I've witnessed the progress made in the research and the development in the area of Chinese medicine in Hong Kong through the initial wisdom of Mr. Dong Jianhua, who was the CEO at the time. And Hong Kong now is emerged as one of the major centers in the world. Today, I will share with you my vision about the future medicine and the role of Chinese medicine in developing the medicine to meet unmet clinic needs and in the future. Since I'm going to use 906 as an example, how I think Chinese medicine should be made in in order to globalize. So I need to declare my conflict of interest as shown here. As you all know, there's a major shift of the emphasis in different countries in terms of health requirement. It's from the past of healthcare, disease care to the health care to address the unmet chronic needs. Healthcare is a leading issue in all the countries. Aging-related disease, unfortunately, is start to shift toward the younger generation due to the change of the society, for instance, the stress. And the aging-associated diseases, including those I listed here, I will not elaborate more. But then the new infectious disease, and such as COVID-19, turned out to be a very complicated disease and have a complicated pathogenesis. Next. So the current medicine actually have a much broader range of needs, like, for instance, such as therapeutic medicine, preventive medicine, functional medicine, and adjuvant medicine. Next. The conventional drug discovery is taking the approach of so-called target-oriented approach for drug discovery. It is based on a reductionist paradigm, but this paradigm is not insufficient to deal with the complicated diseases. New paradigm needs to be explored. So the system biology approach, which involves the polychemical and the multiple target, is the new paradigm should be emphasized. And this is the reason we can further develop this complicated approach is because of the new technology and which can empower us to develop the sophisticated system biology medicine based on polychemical and multiple targets. And the new generation botanical medicine can leverage the knowledge about the efficacy, safety, dosage in TCM and faster track the new drug discovery to address the current unmet chronic needs. And as an example, for instance, in the cancer, for many years, we are dealing with the explore the treatment by dealing with the molecular aspect of the cancer. But then it was found insufficient. So the cell culture and also currently microenvironment of the tumor being put into place as a focus of the research in developing future medicine. But cancer is growing in the human body. So the microenvironment should be also being taken into consideration. And in order to do that, and then we should also consider not just for treatment. We can prevent the initial occurrence at the molecular level, and also treatment and the cure the complicated disease using multi-target approach. Next. Now it's coming back. How the Chinese medicine evolved. If you look the history of Chinese medicine, of China, it's continuing the convergence of different culture through either the trade or invasion of some minority group into the main central part of China. Each of those occasions bring in the new culture and a new remedy, and in dealing with their own illness. And so the China served as actually a cooking pot for different culture, and with time, the Chinese medicine evolved. That is what I see. So Chinese medicine is a product of many different cultures, but merged together to evolve in China. Next. So this area of herbal medicine was suppressed in the around the 16th, 17th century by conventional medicine approach in Western world. So the Western world, now the medicine is conventional and more reductionist as the current approach. And historically, different culture have their own medicine. So they actually, through this, as I mentioned, and through trade or invasion into the China mainland, and then they mixed with the existing culture, and then eventually developed the traditional Chinese medicine. As now it is also evolved into globalized. This including Japan, Korea, Vietnam medicine or other area. I think eventually these two, one is paradigm, one is more holistic, one is more molecular, going to be merged in required for Western, for future medicine. I call it V medicine. That is merge of these two Western and the Eastern medicine. Next. And if you see the current concept of the so-called Western medicine, you will notice actually there are some basic concepts very similar to the basic concept of traditional Chinese medicine. For instance, the system biology-oriented approach is similar to the harmonization of the surrounding and the individual element with the system. It's a holistic approach. Genetic epigenomic is similar to the concept before and after birth in terms of health condition. And precision treatment is similar to the individualized treatment. I will not read through this and just point out there's a similarity in terms of the convergence of the concept. So I simply say, in the past 100 years, there's a domination of the Western medicine toward the Eastern medicine, exemplified in the then the present in China or India. But the present West and the East are willing to learn from each other because of the conversion of the concept as well as unmet clinic needs. I think in the future, these two words is going to merge a single word that is WE, Western medicine, and togetherness. Next. But medicine is a medicine. No matter it's West or East, it has to have a consistent preparation. And in order to do that, it has to have a high quality product. Then with this, it also has to have a clinic evidence-based clinic efficacy and using high quality product. The safety issue needs to be addressed, as well as a certain knowledge how it works. This including the sites of action, active ingredients, and the particular interaction with other drugs. Since many drugs, and for instance, some of the commonly used Western medicine and herbal medicine, how they interact in terms of metabolism actions. So in order to do all this, and the quality control for complex mixture will be required, because botanical is a very complicated ingredient, unlike the Western medicine. So methodology was developed. In the past, too much focus on the chemical fingerprints. And this has a limitation because it is unsure all the chemical are involved in the reaction. So new generation of the quality control methodology will be mechanism-based quality control, and as we have proposed. And then the quality source is critical to the field to have a high quality product. So without the quality herbs, there will be no high quality material medica. Without high quality material medica, there will be no good practice or botanical medicine. How to obtain the defined high quality herbs for given usage is needed to be addressed. So it should recognize botanical drug products have some unique characteristics. First of all, it contains multiple chemicals. Number two is each type of chemical content components may actually have many compounds which could exert the synergistic or antagonistic actions. So the active ingredient is not that clear. But biological activity and mixture works as a whole, showing complex synergistic additive effect. That's why the bioassay will be a direction for quality control. And it should recognize natural variations, that is from botanical raw material. So the raw material needs to be highly highly secure. So substantial information prior to human usage will be very important. So for this reason, in order to advance the Chinese medicine or herbal medicine, it requires collaboration of the groups with very different disciplines. Nobody can do everything. So in 2003, as a consultant for several institutes in Hong Kong, we initiated a consortium for globalization of Chinese medicine. It is a headquarters. It's still at Hong Kong U, through generosity of Hong Kong U in supporting it for that many years. And together with the 15 other institutions, we initiated the process, now have 160 research members and 20 industrial affiliate members. For those who are not a member, we are welcome to join us, and the website is indicated up there, tcmedicine.org. And now let me give you an example how to pursue, from my perspective, in advancing Chinese medicine for cancer purpose. My lab have for the past 50 years actually focused in basically the cancer and the viral pharmacology. Next. Using reductionist approach, we have discovered several antiviral compounds currently used worldwide. And but for discovery of the next and the development of cancer, we took two approaches. One is again and using trying to find the most selective anti-cancer drug or protocol with the next toxicity, like everybody else. And we use trying to focus on DNA replication is basically a target-oriented approach. Using this approach, we have discovered several very interesting chemicals and with improved anti-cancer activity, but nothing as spectacular as the antiviral compound we have discovered. And for treatment, for instance, cytomegalovirus or hepatitis B virus-associated disease, infectious diseases. And the second approach is, so this makes us wonder whether this reductionist approach for complicated disease such as cancer is sufficient, and new paradigm needs to be entertained. The second approach is decrease the toxicity of current cancer treatment modality without compromising their anti-cancer activity. And we focus our attention on the non-hematological side effects, such as vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, and so on. And if we can achieve that, it will improve the quality of patients' life. Furthermore, can increase in the dosage of the chemotherapy or other treatment for cancer management. And then this makes us to think those few side effects, they really have very different etiology based on the current understanding. So therefore, one single chemical cannot do it to protect all those undesirable side effects. So multiple chemicals will be required. And is anything we can do and to achieve that goal? It is also recognized, for instance, for diarrhea, nothing is good enough for all the patients. In spite of the fact all the patients suffer from the same drug-induced diarrhea. So for that reason, and is there any other new approach can be entertained? And so we thought about it. The Chinese medicine often have multiple claims. And then is any claim or formula which happens to have those claim which we hope to have to be helpful to the patient with those side effects. So we end up with this formula. And this is first described 1800 years ago, Guanqintang. It consists of 4 herbs. And all those 4 herbs are commonly found in the wild. And then those are used in the through history for diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and the pain and fever. So we wonder whether this is really good or could potentially protect the side effect associated with the chemo. So I won't go into the detail except to say we prepared it looks very promising, and I will elaborate a little bit more on this formula. And we realized from the beginning, the sourcing of the material is very critical. So we standardize the 4 herb extract from defined area. Then using mechanism-based quality control, and we established that the preparation can be made consistently. And the CGMP is put into place, and we were able to demonstrate batch-to-batch consistency. Exception really interesting based on the chemical or biological fingerprint we established, its stability can be over 72 months or even longer. And so the scalable supply chain and the CMC has already demonstrated. And also, most important, because it's a mixture, virtually impossible to copy. And we can. Okay. In terms of how it works, I will elaborate more, except to give you an idea how interesting this formula can be. This formula we now call EVE 906, and we no longer call Huanjintang because the Huanjintang made by different groups can be very different. So therefore, this, in our initial trial, is just trying to figure out whether this will compromise chemo action against tumor. Long story short, on the left-hand side, as you can see, by through combination, this this is a colon cancer in the mice. You can see you can suppress the tumor growth, and by combine better than each of 906 or irinotecan alone. On the right and the right-hand side, and you have the two figures. Those are toxicity, as the 906 can protect the weight loss caused by irinotecan, as well as death caused by giving mice irinotecan. So in other words, we can decrease irinotecan, which is a very important anti-cancer drug, particularly in the area of colon, and as well as increase the anti-tumor activity of irinotecan. For this to occur, and we require all four herbs, by deleting any one of them will not be as effective as a full complement. And to give you an idea how the consistency of the preparation, we made several batches through the years. All have almost equal body weight protection, as well as enhanced anti-tumor activity of CPT11 in the colon cancer model. We purchased several Huanqing preparation, Huanjintang from commercial source. None of them can compare with those we made in the lab. Is this just now the potential just the irinotecan? We have tried different class of the anti-cancer modality, such and as well as the chemotherapy. As you can see on the top are the CAR T therapy, and then also the checkpoint antibodies. And then we also check on chemicals, which have a different mechanism of action. To make a long story short, they're all synergistic with the 906, either from side effect point of view and also from anti-cancer point of view. Next. How can it do on all of those? So this is how it works. It turns the cold tumor into the hot tumor. When you give immunotherapy or chemo or radiation, and the tumor cell will be damaged, and so the tumor antigen and the dead cell DNA will be released from dead cells. When they released, it serves as an immunostimulant for the microenvironment of the tumor cells. 906, under that influence, can stimulating those immunoantigen and also dead cell DNA to be much more immunogenic. As well, it turns the cold tumor into the hot tumor. What are the detailed mechanisms? And in changing all those, causing those, for instance, the M2 actually being suppressed, M1 macrophage become dominant, and a T cell getting activated, Treg being inhibited, and all those details. So some of the mechanisms already been worked out. Next slide. To simplify, actually is current is support this mechanism, that is dead cell and antigen, and will be picked up by in the tumor microenvironment, will be picked up by dendritic cells. And the stimulated STIM pathway secreting cytokines, such as interferon gamma and so on. And then this will, which can end up helping the proliferation, differentiation of the macrophage into M1 and the innate immunity, as well as it could trigger the T cells to get activated. That should facilitate CAR T. As well as turn out to be interesting, it appears also to be helpful for memory T cell to function. I show you the data. And as far as on the Treg, it can suppress the PD-L1 expression, and also in the tumor microenvironment, you have a derived stem cells, and all which secrete IDO that also gets suppressed, and others tumor cell immunoresistance mechanism could also be suppressed. So multiple mechanisms are involving, and this is just the immune system or an inflammatory process. And the tumor cell by itself also will change their behavior. Let's come back to how it protects the damage. And as you can see, when you have a CPT11, you cause the inflammation. And this process of inflammation can be multiple. That's why you have a diarrhea. But in the presence of 906, you suppressed the inflammation through multiple mechanisms. That's why each of the inhibitor for those mechanisms was not that effective in clinic for treatment of patients with chemo. In addition, it also helped the recovery of the damaged tissue. That is, to us, it's a big surprise. But that is, so inhibited the inflammation as well as, a key point is this is inhibition in the tumor, is activation of the inflammatory. So in different tissue, you actually have a different actions. And so let me now turn into give you example of how it works in the case of hepatoma cells. There is on the right, in combination with the captocytidine, as you can see, it's synergistic, and that was done the early time. Then the subsequently, when sorafenib is approved as the first chemo, it also enhanced anti-tumor activity. Most recently, PD-1 antibody was also shown to have a good activity against the, so when we combine with 906, to our big surprise, actually not only suppress the tumor cell growth, actually melt the tumor cell away. If you challenge the same cell with a tumor, and the same tumor, in one group, so not to have a memory effect. If you challenge with a different tumor, it seems to have a very different, they do grow. So it is very selective. This suggests the 906 can potentiate the vaccine-like activity of the tumor in mice. And this 906 already went through the clinic trial and multiple phase 1-2 clinic trial in US. Currently, is in a phase 2 trial for hepatocellular carcinoma. This is deal with hepatocellular carcinoma, which is HPV associated. I tell you the reason. Go back there. The reason for is this is, but also it was tested against clinically for pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer, as far as rectal cancer. The initial phase 1-2 result all looks promising, either from side effect point of view or from an patient cancer management point of view. Next. Here is an example to show you for hepatocellular carcinoma. This was done at Yale, Stanford, and City of Hope. The red one is the non-Asian patients. This doesn't have a HPV involvement. The green one, the blue one, is the Asian patients, and those are 90% of them have HPV involvement. As you can see, the response are very different. So because the etiology actually very different. And that's, I will not elaborate more, but this is in combination with the capecitabine, and that is not approved in US as a drug, although I heard it's actually approved in China. And then this one, so we combine with the sorafenib, and then as I already showed, synergistic. So now the previously, next. So we have now is ongoing, and it's a phase 2b multi-regional randomized placebo-controlled studies, and with E for plasma. The ratio is 2:1. Next. Those are participating institutions. I would like to say one thing, the Hong Kong U is actively participating. And Professor Yuan is the PI, and I thank for his collaboration. And I also like to take the opportunity to thank Vivian Wang, who is the organizer of this, your meeting, and who is strongly encouraged us to do the study in Hong Kong. And this is another trial, is to show its potential possibility for treatment of advanced pancreatic carcinoma. This is all advanced patient. It's a phase 2 multi-center, open-label dose escalation. As this is a single arm, and then as you can see, the actually for this, in general, based on the historical, it's probably only have about 1 or 2 months, but then however survival. But in this case, we come down with 6 months. So we are entertaining the idea now to try to make a pancreatic trial, 906, together with the current popular protocol, and both show synergistic interaction with the 906 in animal and in the clinic setting. Next. And both for 906 to be used for liver or pancreatic cancer already received the orphan drug status from US FDA. So this revision, the possibility 906 is a platform drug, and for both liver, pancreatic, perhaps other type of cancers. And so the 906 through our study is evolved as an immunotherapy, chemotherapy, radiation adjuvant, and together with it, it can be for many type of cancer, and this is what we see. Okay. In the course of these studies, all those studies, and to assess the potential mechanism of action of 906, we actually developed a whole set of bioassays. This including about 30 enzyme and the signal transduction pathway. So we call this as a STAR discovery pattern. With this biological platform, we start to wonder what is the other herb or chemical may behave in this, because this actually involve each signal transduction pathway can involve more than 5 to 6 proteins. And with that, we come on down with the STAR platform. We screen against 250 herbs. They all have very different properties over this. Using this, we can not only understand what each herb potentially can do what on what mechanism, but also can use this as a drug discovery platform. And with a single chemical, we also can do how they have an off-target action, and also what could be the side effects. I will not elaborate more. If you're interested, the STAR drug discovery platform. We already licensed this technology to Eviva. Next. Okay, so system biology pipeline focus on cancer inflammation. And not only we deal with 906, currently we also find they are herbs which actually can be combined together, can be very useful with respiratory disease, as well as for hormone-related diseases. Due to limit time, I will not elaborate more. And then, so in conclusion, as you can see, convergence of a similar concept of West and the East, and through valuing the knowledge and the strength and the best practice is the direction to go. And as I already mentioned, the convergence of the concept needed to also say something is the preventive medicine, and we don't have to count on the vaccine alone. There are other approaches can be taken. And as a matter of fact, vaccine potential side effect with a newly developed vaccine, and is for COVID-19, is become an issue. And the preventive treatment in China, they did use the vaccine, but the most important, they also using other methodology, including acupuncture and so on. So those are the so 治胃病 is very old concept, and then maintenance, the quality of life, and then in China we call the rebalancing, 调理 is also very important area. This all related into the new medical needs is to be explored further. Next. So not only we pay attention, actually Western magazine also start to pay attention to this area. They wrote this National Geography, the reporter and the photographer was with me for almost a year and came down with their articles, translated to many different languages and published 2 years ago. And so if you're interested, you can find it. So with that, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Zheng Yongqi, for his wonderful presentation from YIV 906 to show us a wonderful study to develop the new drug from Chinese medicines, and also promote Wei medicine as a global medicine in the future. Now we have a Q&A session. So now I got one question without name. Professor Zheng, the question is, what are the greatest obstacles to the globalization of Chinese medicine and the promotion of integrative medicine? This is one question from our audience.
Could you repeat? I don't understand the question.
The question is, what are the greatest obstacles to the globalization of Chinese medicine and the promotion of integrative medicine?
Two key points. One is can you prepare high quality and consistent preparation? Okay, this is without a high quality preparation, and also can make consistent preparation, then whatever you do may not necessarily reproduce. If it cannot be reproduced, then it only can be vision as a preliminary information. This is what so I see, for instance, in the COVID-19, so many interesting phenomena being explored. I rarely see information about the quality of those preparations. This is a major concern because even they are active with the preparation they used, we are not sure others can make the same preparation and can reproduce the result. So that's number one. Two is evidence-based clinical trial. So far, Chinese medicine is more or less experience-based. So how do we make it into as evidence-based? Okay. You may argue maybe the Chinese medicine is always individualized. On what basis you do the individualization? That needs to be defined. So I think that if you can prove a preparation and in terms of its clinical usefulness and ensure the quality can be made consistently, I think those are the two key points. You can globalize the essence, the value of Chinese medicine. And in terms of how to study the mechanism, it takes time, but needs to be done. Because this can help you not only to understand how the potential side effect, and the most important, how does the Chinese medicine work? But don't forget, we are dealing with a system. And so if you just study a single compound or use the network pharmacology, evaluating the mechanism is not sufficient. And because the network pharmacology does not take in consideration of the quantity and the quality of the product, of the targets, as well as so I think those all but it is fine. We do step by step, but needs to be done. So I use the 906. We work on this for the past 20 years through the many my postdoc visiting fellows work. And we do only know very little, but this little already lead us to thinking about many possibilities. So sorry to give a long answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Zhang. So thank you again for Professor Zhang's wonderful presentation.
Our second speaker is Professor Yang Zifeng. The topic is searching for innovative transfer, the origin of innovative transfer of anti-COVID drugs from traditional Chinese medicine. Before I pass on to Professor Yang, I would like to make a brief introduction of him. He is now working at the Guangzhou National Laboratory, the state key laboratory of respiratory diseases, and he is the vice director of the state key laboratory of respiratory disease and the first affiliated hospital of Guangzhou Medical University. And he is also studying the integrative medicine to prevent and treat the respiratory diseases. Professor Yang has published a series of journals, papers on nature and science, and a series of other key journals. And he has also been awarded Guangzhou Innovative Medicine and a series of other awards nationwide. And he has also chaired many national projects. We all know that Professor Yang is also working with Mr. Zhong Nanshan on the COVID-19 antiviral drugs. And he has many thoughts about the study of antiviral drugs for COVID. Okay, Professor Yang. Okay, distinguished guests, experts, friends, from home and abroad. I'm Yang Zifeng from the Guangzhou Medical University. I'm very happy to give a speech on these ICMCM, and the presentation is actually also guided by Mr. Zhong Nanshan. So my topic today is searching for innovative transfer of anti-COVID drug from traditional Chinese medicine. And we know that epidemic is still on, and the virus has been around for a long time. And there's also some breakthrough infections of new variants after the vaccine immunization. And we also have the alpha, beta, delta, and Omicron strains. So we have to do active early intervention for the control and prevention of the disease. And in 2020, in the very early stage, there was severe pneumonia, which is quite common. And then there's also some side effects and many onset of sequelae. And now we also at the stage 2, there are the normalized prevention and control. And then in 2022, we also have seen the Omicron strain, and we have seen some mild cases and mostly symptomatic, and there are also sequelae found in the confirmed cases. So the pandemic is ever-changing, and for our center, this whole course treatment of COVID-19 is common sense for West and East medicine. And then in the early stage to the middle stage, there are viral infections and also very severe immune response. And then there is some severe symptoms detected. And then at the later stage, there's also the long COVID. And we have to know the inhibition of immune pathogenesis and some anti-inflammatory symptoms. And also, there are national guides on the antiviral treatment. But now, we also the commonly used drugs are the chemical drugs. And now we also have some dynamic needs for the drugs for COVID. And we have seen that the broad spectrum is more effective on the control of the new strains. And for the systematic diseases, we should adopt the traditional Chinese medicine, which is proved to be effective to prevent the transfer from mild to severe symptoms. And we have also seen in the Western medicine, from preclinical to phase 1, phase 2, and to the marketed stages. And the main approach is to inhibit the replication of the virus. And in 2020, our country also have approved some drugs. Most of them are chemical drugs. But they, to some extent, they have some safety or security issues. So the integrative medicine is adopted by our country. It is a very strategic approach for us. And there has also been approved in the past diseases control, like SARS in 2003. And for the SARS control, our experts in Guangzhou also visited Hong Kong and shared our experience in about the integrative medicine approach. And these integrative medicine is quite meaningful and strategic.
On one hand, and we integrate this precision approach together with this holistic approach from the TCM. And of course, we know that and after the infection and this kind of new virus, they will infect this epithelial on cells barriers, and they will introduce this thrombin and even introduce the thrombus. And in TCM, we have the concepts of pathogenic factors. And the pathogenic factors includes different kinds of factors. And this is coming from the outer environment. And this will cause the infections of the inner organs. And we also combine this Western and Eastern drugs, and also WHO. They conducted analysis and research on the TCM, on the COVID-19 treatment. And of course, the President Xi also emphasized the combination of TCM and Western drugs, and also like the mission Zhong Nanshan, and talk about and emphasize the early invention is very needed for the COVID-19 control. And for example, the rebalancing as well as the holistic approach are very practical in this concept. And for example, In TCM, they emphasize the infectious, and they also emphasize, for example, there's a lot of causation, a relationship, and the people's disease are closely related to the environment. And sometimes, other than the infection and those diseases will cause death. And another thing is in TCM, they also emphasize the quarantine. For example, there's a lot of treatises in the traditional Chinese medicine series. They emphasize if there are over 3 people who are infected, they cannot enter certain places. So those are some records in the treatise. And another concept is the environment disinfection. So those concepts are still very modern nowadays. And in addition, it's also talk about this is the pathogenic factors, and this is originated from the Qing Han dynasty, and also developed in the Qing Sui Han. And later, they talk about the toxicity, is also one of the factors. And this is a lot of treatises and theories in the development. So in the past 2 years, in our group, Mr. Zhong Nanshan and our group members has already discovered the Lianhua Qingwen capsules and also other TCM. They have this kind of mechanism, and they can be they are very applicable in the clinical trial. And of course, they can find this efficacy of the TCM, and they will improve the clinical response, and they can also reduce the severe and death cases, and also reduce this rebound positivity rate. And of course, there are different phases in this COVID-19 treatment. And for the first phase, it's about the mild cases, and we will have those Lianhua Qingwen, and to increase the immune system, to activate this immune system. And of course, in the severe cases, and they will reduce this inflammation, etc. And the Lianhua Qingwen capsules has already approved its efficacy, and there are a lot of paper published on its efficacy. And in the early stage of 2021, has already approved the Lianhua Qingwen capsules, and have this inflammation inhibitor effect in some mutant strains. And the Nature View and Lancet, they also paid attention and even quoted those papers. And in 2022, and based on the previous research, we started the placebo treatment research. And this preparation is very important. And we have established this preparation in mainland and the other places. And for example, in Thailand and Philippines and Vietnam, in those places, we have already completed the registration, and in Thailand, we have already kicked off this research because those people's situations are similar to Chinese. So actually, 莲花清瘟, so it's a very important element. It's a very important element is forsythia, and also it's kind of fillary, and has already approved by the Chinese government and the Drug Bureau. And the relevant paper published in Federal Medicine. And this is effective to this Delta and the COVID, and also Omicron, etc. And they have already formed a very effective elements. So we also conducted a research in vivo. So this has 18% of the death production on the mice, and in the early stage, COVID. The 50 the micrograms will have its effect. And we know the TCM has the multi-targets and also the multiple functions, and they can have some kind of a maintain and a protection functions. And so Pfizer's Paxlovid and the some protection in experiment is failed. So this is showed the advantage of the TCM and the 莲花清瘟capsules, especially the forsythia and also the fillary, and they have a very effective element. And we also have this reduced some pathways, and also to and inhibited the cytokine storm. So in the infected lungs, and this will prohibit this cytokine storm. And of course, the respiratory support is very important, and the injection method is also very helpful. So we discovered, and they also invented this 血必净 injection. So in Tianjin and the academician Zhou Nanshan support, we conducted the clinical research, and the 血必净 can solve the TSI and also reduced its risk, and also increased its oxygen combination index. And of course, there are a lot of synergies between this Western medicines and the TCM. And we also get the evidence from the animals and the clinical trials. And another aspect I want to touch upon is the recovery process after the COVID-19 infections. And we also have this kind of the lung support, and as well as the blood improvement capsules. And this project has already finished the RCT research. And this will also release a lot of fatigue situation and responses. So TCM is an important source for the effective treatment, and those kind of formula and prescriptions are an innovation foundation for the future development. And with the combination of the Western TCM, this will create a stronger synergy. And we will develop the experience-based approach to the evidence-based approach, and we can discover a more effective and safer and even cheaper and more convenient TCM, and this will helpful to all the patients. Last but not least, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all my group members and also my teacher, the academician Zhong Nanshan. So I wish the forum a great success. Thank you, Professor Yang, for your excellent speech. Professor Yang talked about the research and also relevant projects from their group on the COVID-19. They also develop very good drug and medicines. And in 2021, and they conducted the clinical trial, which proved that Lianhua Qingwen capsules were effective to the COVID-19. And they also use the filtering from this Lianhua Qingwen capsules and to develop a small molecule drug development. So this kind of thoughts are very insightful and also innovative for us. And some process are very successful. And also, for example, the artemisinin. So first, I would like to ask the first question to kick off the QA session. Yes. Good morning, and I'm online. I'm ready to take your questions. So my question is about your filtering. It is in the clinical trial, right?
Thank you. I think for traditional medicine, innovative is very important. And you know that for SciC is one important ingredient for Lianhua Qingwen, and also it has been successfully developed by our country to combat the influenza. So it has been proved its safety. And in this anti-COVID treatment, we also found its effectiveness, so it can be put to clinical use rapidly. And on June 16th, 2021, the administration proved the clinical test of this disease, and at that time in Guangzhou we have the Delta strain infection, and now it's Omicron, and now we are prepared to do the middle stage development. And we can regard it as a type of artemisinin, and we will do the respective research. If smooth, it is likely to become a new traditional medicine drug that has passed the clinical test. So this is in the middle stage development. Okay, excellent. Thank you for your sharing. Are there any questions online? Professor Feng has a question. Okay, hello, Professor Yang. Thank you for your wonderful speech. We still have 2 minutes. I want to ask for these tri-party development. For your center has been done a lot of research, and these tri-party approach actually is very important, and many work is conducted in your center. And one of your major focuses is the Linhua Qianwen capsule, and we also think that in the core formula, the one is Yin Qiao, and the other is Ma Xiao Shi Gan Tang. So about the tri-party and tri-formula and tri-medicine, what insights do you propose? I think for this tri-formula and tri-medicine, actually, there are also the involvement of West medicine and Chinese medicine. Actually, I think the emphasis is on the anti-inflammation and also early stage intervention. I think this is the common ground. Compared with Ma Xing Shi Gan Tang, it has a very robust effectiveness. Thank you for your question. And our time is up. And let's thank Professor Yang's wonderful speech and sharing again. We hope that we can successfully control the pandemic soon, and we can open the border very soon. And then we can invite Professor Yang to do a face-to-face discussion with us. Okay, I'm looking forward to that too. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, now this would be the third speaker of our keynote speech, and also we are very familiar with the speaker, Professor Su Guohui. Professor Su's topic can be seen on our agenda. Actually, he also shared with us on ICMCM. This is a very quite interesting traditional Chinese herb, the lithium bararum glycopeptides. In the past, he shared its treatment of eye-related diseases, and today he would like to share with us the effectiveness of LBG on the basic and clinical research of antidepressive and of antidepressant treatment. And I think we are all very familiar with Professor Su Guohui. So now he is the dean of the Neural Genesis Academy of Jinan University, and he has been involved in these traditional Chinese medicine and the pharmacology study. He's a pioneer, and when I first came to Hong Kong in 2003, we also had these ICMCM, and on these occasion, I heard Professor Su has done a lot of research in this field. He is also the academician of the Chinese Academy of Science. He's a very renowned academician, and he is also the chair of the traditional Medicine Alliance, and he found the New World Research, and he's the editor-in-chief. And he graduated from MIT of US. He got his PhD degree there, and then ever since he has been involved in the neurological research. So now let's pass on to Professor Su, academician Su. Thank you very much for your invitation, for this opportunity to share with you the latest research and findings of me about the LBM. on the basic and clinical research of antidepressive effect. Now we are in the stage of a rapid economic development, the accelerated living pace and very fierce competition. So we are facing with intensive stress. And now our life expectancy has been prolonged. And of course, the longer life we live, the better. But now we not only emphasize on the treatment medicine, we also attach increasingly bigger importance to preventive medicine. Medicine actually has the same origin as food, so we also emphasize on some functional food and medicine and some health supplements and drugs. So now that the neurological have the central hub neurological system, it is connected to the brain, and for the yellow, this is the peripheral neurological system. So we have to protect our nervous centrales very well. So this one is the picture of the brain neurological system. It has the different nerve cells. This is the neurological cell. And we also have different kinds of neural cells, and we have these neuroglia, and there are also the different kinds of glial cells. There are astrocyte, Schwann cells, and also the oligel dendrocyte and the microglia. And for these different cells, actually, they have different functions and important functions for immune system. So these are these small glial cells, and their roles in the nervous centrales. So let's look at this diagram. Actually, the youngsters should live a happy life, but according to studies, we found that as high as 28.35% of the youngsters suffer from some mental disorders, including like 6.2 suffer from depression, and they also have some anxiety disorders and the PTSD and some conduct disorders. But the issue is they are not willing to take the traditional antidepressive drugs, which has very strong side effects. So we start to study some other replacements, alternatives, based on the principle of the same origin of medicine and food. So for Western and Eastern medicine, actually we used the modern biological approach to study their relationship, and we also probed into some basic principles of the Chinese medicine. We can use some basic experimental study to know more about TCM. And we can see the discussion of lithium in the Shenlong classic of Material Medica. And it's origin of growth is in Ningxia province and Gansu too, and it's actually it has different natures. It can help to brighten our eyes and clear our liver. And as early as 1989, there were many papers studying the natures of lithium. Actually, it has a different biological and the health characteristics. And I will focus on its antioxidation and anti-inflammatory roles. So it's grown and produced in Ningxia province. And this is the pictures of the growing base. And after you reap the seeds from the trees, then put it under sun to dry it. And then we let the seeds go through the drying process. And then we also cooperate with the institutions to divide the ingredients, and it's to know more about its effectiveness. And we can see the different formula actually use lithium a lot because it's safe and also effective. And lithium also have two types mainly. One is from Ningxia, and the lithium barbarum L, and the other is lithium Chinese mill. It has different ingredients. For time's sake, I will not elaborate on that. Lithium is a single formula, but it has many ingredients, more than 30 polysaccharides, and among them 5 polysaccharides are quite effective. Professor Tian from the Chinese Academy of Science also further divided. It has a very high bioactivity, and it also is very rich in carotene. So it has a very strong antioxidant effects. And for the lithium, the LBP, it also have many strengths. It's also divided from the lithium polysaccharide. It can help to strengthen our immune system and also can fight against aging. And in 2018, in Zhongning, I established a lithium academician workstation, and we also worked with the Ningxia Tianren lithium biotech company. This is a picture of me with the head of the company. And also Professor Tian from the Chinese Academy of Science also used a very good method to divide 5 polysaccharides from the LBG. And the main ingredient is anti-immune and anti-fatigue.
And they also talk about this immunomodulation and the other functions. So for this kind of LBG, and what's the difference from it with the LBP? Because it's eliminates some side effects, and also the combination of 5 the polypeptides, and of course its concentration is higher. And we have conducted different kinds of the LPG research. And there's different 5 glypeptides, and also the polypeptides. There's the LPB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are the molecule volume and the protein percentage, and the sugar percentage, and also other components. And for example, this monos, and so this is the construction for this LBG. And in LBG, there are about 17 different, for example, the amino acid and other elements, and I didn't elaborate here. So in these different research, for example, in the retina, and also in this anti-depression disease, we have already published some papers. So if you are interested, you can find those papers on Nature. In the past, this LBG is hard to purchase in Hong Kong, and it only can be purchased in mainland. So I talked to a company and to import those things, Goji Thai, and import to Hong Kong. Goji Thai is the company's name, and the product is called Viso 1, and there are the LBG inside, and it concludes LBG P1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And for example, the mannitol blueberry extract and grape seed extract and starch, and etc. Citric acid, etc. And in the Viso 1, and this LBG content is about 30 particles of this lithiums, and it's similar to other products, has already obtained the USDA approval. And this is the standards made from the USDA organic. And also this is obtained this hazard HACCP certificate. So this is about the food safety management systems. So those are the certificates obtained. So those are the certificates. For example, the ISO 9001 certificate. Of course, when this products import to Hong Kong, they have to obtain this 7+1 nutrient mark, and they have to be approved by the Hong Kong government. And you can purchase this product online, and you can go to the Goji Tech store and by scanning some QR code to buy those products. And this is the Hong Kong number for the procurement hotline. So I will talk about this LBG's effect on the anti-depression, and it's a protection on our neurons. And what's the effective elements and as well as the targets. And at the first, we did the vivo research, and this is a Professor Ren Chaoran from Jinan University. I collaborated with him on this research. And the research is about this an LBP and also the LBPG preventive treatment ameliorates aversive stimulant-induced depression. And depression has become a very severe phenomenon, and it has already impacted 19% of the people worldwide. I also showed some examples before on this impact from the depression. So I consider and thought whether the LBG can improve this kind of a situation or reduce some side effects. And for the vivo research, for example, we will skip some research and give some actions to the mice, and we will observe the LHB. And in the depressive mice, the neurons irregularly expressed, and they also recorded an inflammation. And those depression will activate some cells. But if we add this LBGP, and this will reduce this kind of depression. And also this kind of this microglial cells, this will be those cells will be at ease, and those irregulation will be prohibited. And we also observed their behaviors for 28 days, because we only observed their actions and the behaviors from those animals. And we also used the sugar province test. And for those depression animals, they want to take those sugar waters. And another is a forced swimming test. And we put this mouse in a water tank. And if the floating time is very long, it means there are some depression actions. And the ordinary mice, they always prefer to walk to those open air places. But for the depressive mice, they are not willing to go to those places. So this is the forced swimming test, and we put this mouse in the water tank for 15 minutes for the first day, and the second day is about 5 minutes. And the second is the sucrose preference test. So we can observe the volume they take. And another is the open field test. we put this animal in this area and to observe whether they will go to the open air or the central place. So after the LBGP intervention, and we can see that the sugar water volume they took is increased, and also the floating time on the water tank is reduced, and the willingness to go to the central places and increasing. So those figures show the reduction of their depression. LHB. So in this place, and this kind of LHB cells will have some irregular electricity expressed, and with this LBGP, and those electricity waves become regular and normal. And also for this cells, and those are activated. And after the LBGP, and those activated cells return to the normal level. After the LBGP, we can see that the depression and anxiety of the mice is reduced. So those are, and also the microglia activation is reduced as well. So this is the vivo research. But what about clinical trial? So we also collaborate with the Professor Huang on the adolescents on their depression and anxiety. So what is this kind of subliminal depression? Actually, subliminal depression is the sub-level of this depression. It can occur 2 or more depression symptoms, and those kind of symptoms can last at least 2 weeks.
So we can diagnose these symptoms, and for these subsyndromal depression, we also studied the youngsters. These youngsters are very likely to develop into depression disorder or the dual mass disorder, and they may have a high possibility of suicide, and they are not willing to take the traditional psychiatric drugs because they have a lot of side effects. And so we have conducted experiments on 29 youngsters aged from 15 to 18, and they meet the requirements for the subsyndromatic depression. And one group take the LBG 300 milligram, and the other group take the placebos. And then we use the HAMD 24 metric to measure the effectiveness. We conduct a base evaluation on the first week and then the fourth and the sixth week. And we found that first, it is very effective to take the LBG. It can improve the cognitive damage, can improve its sense of helplessness. We have just published the paper on these findings. And the second finding is that it barely has any side effect. So this is an illustration of the improvement of the depression symptoms. This is the LBG improvement. It is the readaptation effect. The blue one indicates a placebo, red one indicates a LBG, and it can improve the cognitive damage, and its hopelessness factor has also been improved. And this is Dr. Lin and its team. They're based in Guangzhou Medical University, and the research is conducted there. So to summarize, we conducted a randomized and double-blind clinical experiment in Guangzhou among youngsters aged from 15 to 18. We selected 29 individuals that suffer from the depression, the subthreshold depression, 14 take in placebos, 15 taking LBG with a daily amount of 300 mg. And we found after 6 weeks of experiment that LBG is effective and has no side effect. We found through the evaluation of the HAMD24 metrics that the group taking LBG has improvements in terms of cognitive disorder, the sense of helplessness, and other obstructions. And I would like to pay tribute to my colleagues in the project team. And I also published a book in English called Lithium, Barbarum and Human Health. I want to further promote the application of lithium and LBG. And I also would like to introduce the neurodegeneration research. Its impact factor is 6.058. It focuses on the neuroscience Q1 zone and cell biology Q2 zone. And it is also being listed as the journal by the Academy of Science. So I look forward to your support. That's all of my presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much to Professor So for its wonderful speech. I think you are very familiar with the study of Professor Su. So this time he showed us the experiment among animals about LBG. And I find it very valuable that they did some clinical experiments on the effectiveness of LBG on the youngsters suffering from subthreshold depression. And I think this is quite a meaningful attempt and experiment. Now it is the Q&A time. Look forward to your questions. If you have any questions, for those in the meeting room today, we have scores of people here. And if you have any questions, please just raise your hand. And for those online, you just input your question in the chat box, and then I can read and ask Professor Su. Okay, so far we don't have a questions. I want to ask a question. So in terms of the clinical study, I found that there were 29 people under your study. The sample is quite limited. So I'm wondering if you prepare to do clinical study at a bigger scale. And also, is it any possibility for the Hong Kong universities to collaborate with you? Okay, Professor Lin, thank you for your question. You have asked a very good question. Actually, now we are discussing with our colleagues in Changsha, Xiangyang, the hospital in the hospitals, and also in Guangzhou, Jinan University, and also others. We want to establish a multi-center clinical experiment, and we also welcome the Hong Kong counterparts, including the hospitals, to collaborate with us. And thank you for your support in advance. And now we have 3 traditional Chinese medicine schools in Hong Kong, and they have the basis and foundation for clinical studies in Hong Kong Chinese University. We also have these center of Chinese the integrative medicine. We use RCT formula mainly, and in this regard, Hong Kong has some conditions to do the clinical research. So if you can include us as one of the center, it will be a lift for us. So this is our expectation. I received a question for you. Okay, we should eat more fresh goji. Can it prevent the cognitive disorder, especially some depression symptoms and dementia? Will it, if I eat more fresh goji, can it help to prevent? This is a very good question. Actually, just now, in the LBG study, we have conducted a series of studies, but today I don't have time to share with you all of the studies. We found that LBG is very effective on the prevention of the central nervous system diseases. Today I introduced the depression case for you, and actually we have also studied other central nervous system diseases. For example, the Parkinson, and also the ALS, and also dementia, and also retina-related diseases. I feel that LBG has a common mechanism for all these diseases. It has a very strong effect on anti-inflammatory role. Actually, goji is a supplement drug for us, because we know from the traditional Chinese principle, the medicine share the same origin as food. So if you can eat more fresh goji, it would be helpful. But actually, LBG. Taking LBG is more effective because one capsule, one pill of LBG contains the effective ingredients of 39 fresh lithium seeds. So it is the essence of the fresh goji. So it is also very safe. I encourage you to consider. Actually, I take every day for quite some time. Okay, Professor Su, your presentation is very interesting and intriguing to our audience. The second question is the LBG. Does LBG has a different dosage, and what is the relationship between the dosage and its effectiveness? So currently, according to our latest study and findings, for our for daily, if you want to just maintain your health, so every day you can take 1 pill, which is equivalent to 65 milligram. And for these antidepressant, I use 300 milligram. So these are for people with some diseases. They have to take 5 to 6 pills a day. So if you have some small issues about your eyes, you can take 2 pills, which is equivalent to 120 milligram. Actually, this product is very safe. You can rest assured to take it. Okay, the third question is also asking about safety. So for LBG, does it have the effective dosage? Just now you have also answered. And also, does it have a lethal dose? Actually, we have conducted a study. For the lethal dose, it's actually very, very high. Too high for me to remember. Many times. Maybe in the future, I will demonstrate to you to rest you assured. We still have some time. I will ask the fourth question. I will have 2 questions here. The first question has also been answered. The other one is, can Goji treat dementia, Parkinson, depression as well? Okay, for this question.
For depression, we have already conducted the vivo research and the clinical trials as well. In terms of Parkinson, and I just collaborate with Jie Yongyong from Jinan University on vivo research. And it's also effective. And we also have the research on enzyme, and it's also proved effective. But Parkinson and enzyme are just on vivo, and we didn't conduct any clinical trial yet. We haven't had those clinical trial yet. Okay, thank you very much. And also, thank you for your detailed answers. Thank you. Okay, it concludes the keynote speech of this morning. And I would like to thank our 3 speakers, and Professor Zheng Yongqi, and Professor Yang Zifeng, and Professor Su Guohufei. Thank you for their excellent speech, and also thank you for your participation. And we have about 50 to 60 people on site, and I know, as far as I know, there are over 600 audience online. And in the afternoon, and our afternoon session will kick off around 1:30. Yes, it's 1:30 p.m. Hong Kong time. So it's the conclusion of the morning session, the keynote speech session. Thank you very much.
Thank you for attending the ICMCM keynote session. Session 2 of the conference, From CM Clinical Studies to New CM Products, will begin at 1:13 p.m. this afternoon here at the same venue. You are advised to come back 10 minutes earlier to secure your seat. The Zoom login for online participants will also be available at 1:15 p.m. For on-site CME credits applicants, please be reminded to clock out the time when you leave the venue. Kindly also remember to clock in again when you come back for Session 2. 現場觀眾可以喺12點半至1點半同埋3點半至3點9期間，憑會議證到登記處換領咖啡券1張，換領先到先得，送完即止。多謝各位，下晝再見。